Good afternoon, everyone. I wanted to welcome everyone to the Groove webinar, 6 e-commerce micro campaigns that drive macro revenue. We're excited to have another session here with Ethan Giffin, CEO of Groove, and we're going to be talking about a number of things. My name is Eric Jones. I'm the host today. If you have any questions during the time frame that we're presenting, please submit them in our questions panel, and we'll get to them at the end. And then ultimately, we'll be looking to sort of get some feedback from everybody at the very end of this to see if this was useful or what we could change about it as well. So we're excited. Ethan, so good to join you again.
Yeah, excited to be here with everybody today.
So we're covering topics on e-commerce campaigns and micro campaigns for macro revenue. A little bit about us, about Groove. So we were established in 2007, a proud recipient of the Inc. 5000 award 3 times. We're based here in Baltimore, Maryland. Not sure where everybody else is out there, so I'm saying good afternoon. It could be good evening or good morning, depending on where you're at. We do have some people here from some international, I see. A big thing about Groove, a lot of us are focused on revenue, and so we're talking about that today in our campaign strategy, focused on driving revenue through digital marketing, through the use of complex analysis and strategy, branding and creative work, website design and development, inbound marketing and digital marketing, and then certainly conversion rate optimization. So ultimately, you'll see some of that come out today and things that we're talking about. So, Ethan, I think I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, so very excited to be here today. As Eric said, as we're going out throughout the webinar today, don't hesitate to ask questions, right? We're going to have plenty of time for Q&A at the end. And to ask a question, you use the GoToWebinar question panel, and you type your question in, and we'll just start to queue those up over the course of the next 30 minutes or so, and come down to some great Q&A at the end. So feel free. There's no stone left unturned. So we love to get questions. So with that, I want to talk about what is marketing automation. It's a question that I get very, very commonly. And so when I try to explain it to people, I basically say, wouldn't it be cool if you could remind someone that they forgot what was in their shopping cart? Wouldn't it be cool if you could say hello to new visitors on your website, or welcome a new customer that orders from you for the first time, or win back those folks who haven't ordered in a while, right? Or ultimately remind customers to reorder toilet paper. And I think that's why sometimes they put phones in hotel toilets, is that if you run out of paper, you can at least call, right? Flush. I'm a commodian today. Ultimately, like, are you selling disposable or expendable items, consumables that people will come back and order from you over and over again? So could you automatically remind people to reorder the toilet paper? And really, that's what marketing automation is. It's the use of software to automate marketing processes such as customer segmentation and campaign management. I know that that's a mouthful, but what we're going to do today is we're going to break this down into kind of six micro campaigns to think about. In terms of automation for e-commerce, there's a couple of great players in the market. HubSpot, we're big fans of that. We're also fans of ListTrack, an amazing tool. Marketo and Eloqua are also our tools out there. And really figuring out what tool is the best fit for you. Some of these tools are very intense to implement and require a full-time administrator, whereas some of the tools like HubSpot can let a layperson or someone mildly knowledgeable with creating an HTML newsletter be able to create some really, really cool online marketing campaigns. With that, we actually have a tool here called HubShoply, which is a subscription app that allows you to connect your e-commerce platform with HubSpot's powerful suite of inbound marketing tools. So we're syncing order and customer data over from Shopify, BigCommerce, and Magento, and soon to be WooCommerce, over into the HubSpot suite of inbound marketing tools, where it becomes very powerful and allows you to kind of have that data all in one place. And that's a tool called HubShoply that if you have questions about, please feel free to ask. We'd love to get into those later on in the presentation. So when I talk about this, many people just don't know what this is. To some people, it looks like chocolate cake. It's quite delicious. This is the official cake of Maryland. And this is the Smith Island cake, right? And this is very dangerous around me. If one comes around, I have to eat it. And this really kind of aligns with what I think is marketing automation, right? Because each one of those individual slices of cake may not be delicious on their own, right? It doesn't really get good. You don't get the full taste until you put all of those layers of cake together with the chocolate in the middle. And then it becomes really like something to savor on, right? So this is how I think about marketing automation, right? Because what you want to do is you want to have individual micro campaigns, and those micro campaigns come together to equal macro revenue. None of the things that I'm going to talk about today are silver bullets in terms of the revenue spectrum of e-commerce. But when you start to put them together as a team or as a layer in a cake, it becomes extremely powerful, and the revenue starts to add up over time. So micro campaigns equal macro revenue. Think about Smith Island cake. Yum. So the other thing to think about is that people purchase differently, and this is the great grid of buying personas and buying types, right? You go across people that are fast buyers, slow buyers, logical buyers, or emotional buyers, right? And within that, you have competitive, spontaneous, methodical, or humanistic. And those are the four types of buyer personas there are. And you want to make sure that you're catering different campaigns to those different personas. There's no one size fits all. So, I've often said I'm a competitive buyer, and I would probably consider Eric a competitive buyer as well. Whereas other people here on staff might be more methodical buyers that go and have a much more logic based process when they're purchasing, or they may be humanistic and buy off of emotion, right? Like who has bought before, and how does that fit within my social circle, and what are the images and photos that you're using, right? So you want to create things that basically go out and attract those four different type of buying personas in that process. This is an example from HubSpot, right? And they're constantly changing the contact profile. But what it is basically you're able to start to collect all of the marketing and sales data about a person in one common system, right? What is your marketing system of record? So with this, we've brought in things like lifetime revenue, the number of items they've purchased, their average order value, their first order date, their last order date, the items that they've purchased, and the different brands or manufacturers they bought from. And when you start to put all of this together in one common contact profile, you can start to take actionable results off of that. So here I can see kind of the timeline of somebody placing an order. What did they order? What life cycle are they in? Have they purchased one or many of their product? What state are they in? All of those things allow you to start to segment your list and talk to it differently. Then you have those lists, and as people meet these criteria in HubSpot, they're able to kind of basically automatically join that list, and you're able to start to kick off workflows to automatically communicate with them. In terms of what you're doing with some of these micro campaigns that I'm going to talk about, they might only go to 1, 2, 3, 4, or 10, 20, or 100 people a day. The numbers are quite small, but you're actually sending somebody an email that fits them at the time that they need that. So again, thinking about that is you're really kind of starting to communicate on a one-to-one level with them, and it's an automated thing that basically revenue starts to generate while you sleep. And that's the great part about all of this. This is the example of a workflow where this is where we're doing an abandoned cart, where we're actually sending them an email 8 hours after they've abandoned their cart, and then 16 hours after they've abandoned their cart. And maybe we're going to send them another email 24 hours after that if they haven't come back to purchase, right? And so again, you're setting the stages, you're setting the workflow, and you're communicating with people as they meet that criteria. So getting into our first campaign, it's welcome them with a series. And the email welcome series is one of my favorite things to start with. And everybody, when I speak in public, and I can't really see you all today, unfortunately, but when I present this to a packed room, I'll say, all right, who is annoyed by these welcome pop-ups? And literally, like everybody in the room raises their hand, myself included. But the thing about them is that they do work, right? In this example, you're giving somebody an offer off their first order in order to gain their email address. And what happens with that is it becomes you start to gather data about them very early on, right? So the sooner that you can gather data with all these systems, the sooner you can identify an email address and pair it with the cookie, so to speak, that each of these systems places on your visitors' browsers, the quicker you'll be able to start to interact with them. And so people are quite annoyed by this at times, but the whole thing is that what we see is that people's analytics of email list growth start to look like a hockey stick, right? They from the time that they didn't have one of these welcome pop-ups to the time that they did add one. So you might see 20, 30, 40 emails a month trickle into your list. When you add one of these pop-ups, you might start to get 300 emails a day. It really kind of depends upon what marketplace you're in and how you're operating. So it really pays to add one of these, and I commonly bet folks that we can outperform any expectation that they have with it. Here's another example where we're actually starting to segment people into specific sales funnels, as well as asking them their email address. So we want to know, are they shopping for men's clothing, women's clothing, or kids' clothing, right? So again, how can you start to segment people earlier in the sales process to start to give them offers that they benefit, right? Because what you don't want to do is send something about women's clothing to something where someone just cares about men's or kids, or the same thing. You don't want to send men's clothing out to somebody that just cares about women's or kids, right? So you start to segment that very, very early. So the email welcome series, yes, it's annoying, but the list growth looks like a hockey stick. In the process of somebody filling out a form on your website and giving you their email, they're invoking the cookie, which is how all of these marketing automation systems identify a anonymous visitor. And what you want to do with this is only show it every 30 to 60 days. And what you can do is you can send out a series of 2 to 3 emails that you set up that automatically go out, and you can stop sending those emails once they make a purchase. You can write automated rules for this. I would test promos, different promos, right? Don't always give away margin. Sometimes simple gifts work, right? Can you give away a T-shirt that cost you, $5 to create instead of giving, 10% off an order, right? You've already clawed, if your average order value is $150, you've already clawed back basically $10 in margin, right? If you're giving $10 off, you've already clawed back $5 in margin by just giving away a product that was inexpensive to create. And we've seen both percentage off, dollar figure off. We've seen people give free shipping on their first order. And then we've seen people give various types of tchotchkes that fit with their buyers' personas, right? And so you want to think about that. You want to test and see what works. But it is a very, very powerful way to start to communicate with folks. And the great thing about this is opening the door to an abandoned cart, right? Because if you don't have somebody's email address and they abandon their shopping cart, you don't actually have a way to communicate with them. So if you get their email here, it allows you to take the next step forward. And that goes into campaign number 2, reclaiming the cart. And this is an example from Fab of a shopping cart abandonment email. You left one item in your cart, limited quantities, right? They're building a time-based constraint to show people there's only limited quantities of this available. Do you still want it? Right? Again, no offer here. We kind of typically recommend that on the first email reminder, and even the second, that you don't necessarily give away an offer with that. It's just like, there's a large department chain store here called Hex. Now it's Macy's. My grandmother used to say about Hex, never buy anything at full price at Hex, because every 3 weeks it's going to be on sale. And so you don't want to condition your visitors to expect a discount for every time that they don't do exactly what you want them to do. So just a reminder of this should generate revenue. Here's an example from Quicksilver. We noticed you didn't complete checking out and hope there wasn't a problem. If you'd like to continue where you left off, you can click below to return to your cart. So what you want to do with this is you want to start your workflow around abandoned cart somewhere between 60 and 90 minutes after they've abandoned your website. We've seen folks between 2 to 5 emails in the series. you want to see what converts and find that sweet spot, right? You want to start with a reminder and work towards an offer if you need it. Free gifts are sometimes great. Again, much better than giving away margin. You want to send your second email typically 8 to 12 hours later, and then the third email 24 hours after that. And again, this is something that there's no exact formula that fits for every retailer. So it's something you want to play with and toy with as part of your overall process. So abandoned cart, extremely powerful. All right, so let's get into micro campaign number 3. It's all about that PPFU. Well, it's not what you think it is. It's the post-purchase follow-up. So I had to buy some undershirts. So I bought some undershirts. I'm a big Howard Stern fan. And Tommy John advertises on Howard Stern every day. And when I thought about undershirts, I thought, all right, I'm going to go Tommy John. So I bought some Stay Tucked V-neck shirts to wear under my tuxedo for my wedding. And they followed up with this email basically that said, how much do you love your Tommy Johns? And this is a great email asking you to come back and leave a review for that product. Again, they're building their brand into these. They're really kind of well done. So you want to really think about that, right? So I've had people actually send these emails out too soon. So I recently bought dress shirts, and I didn't even have I wasn't even able to wear the dress shirts yet. They weren't even back from the dry cleaner, and they were already asking me for a review 7 days later. So again, you want to send these out somewhere between 20 and 30 days post the order shipment date. You want to ask for those ratings and reviews. This is a great chance to cross-sell other items. You can show related products. And if they don't fill it out, don't hesitate to ask them a second time to come back and review, right? You want to do that email probably 15 days after you sent the first. We don't typically recommend sending a huge series of 5 or 6 emails on this. It can be overwhelming. But again, it doesn't hurt to show a reminder there. So post-purchase follow-up, anything you can do to get people to come back to your site. Typically, anytime you can get somebody to engage, you'll start to drive revenue out of each of those. Micro campaign number 4, reward your most valuable customers, right? So here's an example of somebody that created a limited edition product and sent it out to their highest value customers in terms of lifetime revenue. And they actually sold it out before they even had to put it out to the marketplace. And the other thing that they did with that, by kind of contacting their most voracious supporters, they were actually able to get more emails delivered, right? So all of the email services, Google, Yahoo, are all trying to basically gauge whether an email is spam or not. And when you have basically high levels of engagement in your emails, they're actually going to open up the spigot and let more of your emails get to where they need to get to. So if you're sending that email out and you have a high level of engagement and a lot of people clicking and opening on those links, it's going to start to allow your emails you're going to get a much higher deliverability with that. So this is an example of basically contacting your VIP customers with a limited edition product. Here's an example from Zappos. Although they've made changes to their VIP program, where they're basically alerting you that your customer level is now VIP, and it means free overnight shipping on anything you buy, and it was a great perk. So again, people love to feel special. They love to feel like they're in the next tier of customer. And that's very important, right? I talk about that sometimes, the baker's dozen, right? It's hard to give the baker's dozen. So you want to give them the offer first if they're your VIP customers. You want to tell them that they're special. You want to offer them things or make them feel special with the baker's dozen. You always want to try to move your customers to the next tier. So when we think about these swim lanes, we think about, and it's different for every store, but if you have a $0 to $50 buyer, you want to get them to the $51 to $100 swim lane. If you have somebody in the $150 to $250 range, you want them to move to the $250 to $500 lifetime revenue. So your goal with these things is to always push people to buy more. And what that does is it allows you a much better ROI across all of your paid media channels, right? So if you have the ability to squeeze an extra order or an extra $30 on the average order out of folks, you're going to get a much better ROI on all your paid media. And again, very, very powerful as part of that process. Micro campaign number 5. You want to win back those who have faded away, right? Like who is about to fall off the edge of the earth. This is an example that I purchased. So what this is, I bought. I'm sort of a hipster, for those of you that know me, and I do love vinyl records. So I bought a bunch of vinyl records from Soundstage Direct. It was a great place to order from. And exactly 12 months to the date of which I placed my last order, they reached out with this email. There's 12 hours left for me to use this coupon code. They miss me and want me back. I saved 12%. And damn it, what's the coupon code? WB12. What do you think that means? That means win back 12. They're basically trying to win back anybody that hasn't ordered in 12 months and keep them from falling over the edge into kind of no man's land. And they're trying to pull them back in and get them to reorder and re-engage as customers, right? So it's kind of funny. Like I don't specifically know that that's what WB12 means, but I'm pretty certain that that's what it is. So again, you've already paid money to acquire this customer. It's 7 times more expensive to find a new customer. So why not do everything you can do to win them back in the process? Here's an example from Bath and Body Works. $1 shipping, and use the code MISSYOU25 checkout. So you want to save customers before they drop off the cliff. Depending upon what you sell, you've got to think about what the time frames are, right? Like there are folks where if somebody orders every 6 months, then that's a solid win. There are places that expect you to order between 90 and 180 days. So what you want to do is you want to create segmented lists that are based on the last order date, and you can start to see how your contacts flow across those swim lanes. So maybe you have a 90-day list, a 180-day list, or a 365-day list. Sometimes a nudge is all you need to win them back. And then there are times where if you've got people 2 years old on your list, again, going back to email deliverability, HubSpot went through a big task of basically deleting 250,000 email addresses out of their opt-in list because they weren't engaged, and they basically were pulling down the deliverability of the entire enterprise. So again, you want to nudge people back, and then you want to just keep track of where they are in that process. So that's creating a win-back series of emails. Micro campaign number 6. Don't forget your order anniversary, right? Like there's a fun way to go out and just remind people. This is an example I got from American Apparel, reminding me of the anniversary, my 2-year anniversary of my first order, and that I could enjoy 10% off my next order. Again, these can be really fun. They can be engaging. They need to bring to be telling your brand story and your brand language. But again, it creates an opportunity to do that. And the great thing about it is that when you set these campaigns up, they automatically are just running on a daily basis. And as people meet the criteria, they're automatically getting an email from you, right? So it's kind of a little bit of a set it and forget it mentality. Here's an example from Zappos, where they actually have a little song that they came up with, and a little graphic. And again, they're just having a fun time with that. So send an email at the anniversary of the order date. Be fun with it. Offers work really, really well here, and engage folks in the process. So I like to talk about, I always like to give a bonus. So one of the cool things that you can do with these systems is that you can automate social advertising and even AdWords by creating custom audiences that are automatically linked to your lists in these systems. So this is an example called GoChime, right, where it syncs your HubSpot smart lists, and it works with a bunch of different systems, a bunch of different marketing automation systems, where you can sync your contact list into Facebook and AdWords and Instagram custom audiences. So you can re-engage inactive customers that don't open your email with a Facebook newsfeed ad, right? You can acquire new customers by targeting lookalike audiences based upon the email addresses that you have. And that you can also exclusion target customers from your ads that don't convert or don't want to be contacted or are too early in the process or have just bought. So if people only buy every 90 days from you, why pay money to show them an ad on Facebook when they're when they're 90 days out from reordering? Let's not spend the money on that because they may just click to see what's up, and that's costing you dollars. So what this does, it really allows you to target folks and sync up your lists of contacts and use them as your custom audiences. So lots and lots of fun ways that you can use this. You could have an abandoned cart list where basically you're targeting people that have abandoned carts. You can have the people that haven't ordered in 12 months that you can pull them in with a specific ad and offer. Again, this is not just about email, right? I think about kind of the hub and spoke mentality, but people get active across different mediums. Sometimes they might be active over email. Sometimes they might be active over Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or LinkedIn, right? And so you want to think about how you can reconnect with them across all of those different mediums. So I really think about like the first 12 months of this. It's you getting into the uncovering strategy, adoption, first wins, and then in months 7 through 12, acceleration, right? So how do you get out there and just do it? Like what I suggest to folks is to really start thinking about what's one of these campaigns that you can build every single month. So at the end of 12 months or at the end of 10 months, maybe you've got, 10 or 12 automated micro campaigns that just run for you and help to generate revenue while you're sleeping. But you got to start with the first one. And everybody that sells online should have some type of system that goes out and re-engages and holds all of your marketing data.
So while you're on the topic, one of the questions that came in was, which campaign do I start with, right? So you can talk about the 10 or the 12 that you want to do. How do I evaluate which one I should go after first? Based on 10 or 12, but there's got to be one to start with.
Yeah, so I think it kind of tees up the way I almost went through the presentation. The first thing I would do would be to create an email welcome series with the pop-up, and very, very fast behind that, I would start the abandoned cart. So like you could go back and forth, right? Like it's kind of like, yin or yang, right? Which one of those do I want to start with? Ultimately, I would like if it was me, I would like start with both of them and work to create both of those as a start. And then I would get into things like the post-purchase follow-up and then the win back, right? Those are kind of the four biggest things you can go after that are really like in the fundamentals of e-commerce marketing automation. So the welcome, the abandoned cart, the post-purchase follow-up, and the win back.
And then the other question was, how much should I rely on my e-commerce system to sort of drive this, either segmentation or the send or my email service provider and the integration between the two? Like that's always a challenge, technology being integrated together. You listed a couple of partners there. What's your feeling on that?
Well, like one of our overall frustrations, it's kind of why we built the Hub Shoply tool, was that we would get some information, but not all of the information. So for instance, things like lifetime revenue, average order value, the total number of products purchased, a list of all the brands that you've ever purchased or all the products you've ever purchased. None of that is available kind of out of the box in any of those systems and most of the integrations that are out there. So we wanted to calculate that data and put that together and then stuff that into the HubSpot system. So it's not just about what you get. It's about what the systems aren't giving you is what you need to think about, right? Because Again, I want to like think about average order value, and if like my average order value is $100, how do I move people in the to the $150 bucket? And those are really fun exercises to work through. And again, that's like I talk about the final 20% that most people give up on. Like that last 20% of e-commerce marketing is hard and like has to be well thought out. And those are components of that. So again, it's what's the data they're not giving you that you need to be able to take action on.
You mentioned, some frequency in the beginning of the presentation, and so, the question we got: how much is too much? Is it frequency? Is it time? Meaning, should I go faster in the initial thing? Should I, you had the win back 12, and I was surprised they didn't try to win you back before the 12th, anniversary. So could they have done more to win you back?
Yeah, I think, and honestly, they have. I just thought that like that email was so funny, like that it had the coupon code WB12, that it was perfect for the presentation. But like it's kind of like the people that are just emailing once a month, the e-tailers that are just emailing once a month, like they're like kind of missing out on a lot, right? So um, there is kind of a place where it gets to be too much. I would say that most people don't even approach that. It's something to pay attention to, but it's like I've had people say, "Well, I don't want to do the abandoned cart because I don't want to bother people," and I'm like that's absolutely insane, right? Like if you go to Nordstrom and you walk around the shoe department, you're gonna have 3 or 4 people ask you how you doing, how can I help you, like can I get you, can I bring something out for you? You don't have that opportunity with e-commerce. So you've got to take everything that you've got, and Amazon is doing these things, right? Like Amazon is the master of automation. You look at a product and you barely get back, like look at the next page and they've already sent you an email like, hey, have you thought about these dehumidifiers? Like, and they're like masters at it. So you're competing with Amazon just as much as you're competing with other smaller niche e-tailers. So like you're not annoying people when you do this types of stuff, right? Like you're always going to have people unsubscribing from your list. You're always going to have churn. But you've got to be like more direct, and you've got to ask for the sale more if you're really going to succeed. We've seen people get, like on a decent sized site, like with a lot of traffic, we've seen people like like get 50 or 60 grand in 1 month of abandoned carts after they've of revenue, like after they've done that. And they say, some may say, well, I would have gotten that anyway. Like maybe a little bit of that you might have gotten anyway, but I guarantee you're not getting all of that, right? It's just too competitive in the marketplace, and people are just somebody's shopping on their site, they got to go to the bathroom, they leave their computer, next thing you know their mom calls, next thing you know they got to pick somebody up, and they've forgotten to place the order for the things that they had in their cart, right? So a little gentle nudge, there's nothing wrong with that.
So I know in a previous webinar we talked about BigCommerce and sort of the analytics package that was in there. Are there any other sort of BigCommerce or commerce e-commerce platforms that you really like from an analytics standpoint that helps you with the segmentation? If we believe that segmentation is a key in doing this, whether we want to do product or customer or personality in that case, I probably am a competitive buyer as well. What other ones are out there that you might say, take a look at these, even as a bolt-on to some other e-commerce packages?
Well, I think that's the thing, right? First off, your shopping cart is meant to sell, right? So the sole goal of your cart is to create a system that has a catalog and allows people to put a credit card in and or other payment methods and check out. And I haven't seen any system out there that has all of these marketing features built in at a level that these other bolt-on providers have. So, like, you're just not going to get it. Like, I don't care like how much you want to do things, whether it's BigCommerce or Magento or Shopify. Like, you're not going to get that all in one place. So you need to find a system where you can do that, and you need to find a system that works for you, and the workflow, and your ability to staff it. So again, there's multiple providers out there at varying levels, but I would definitely, like, if you're not doing those 4 kind of fundamental campaigns, then you're losing revenue every day.
So this question came in. We're a $4.5 million e-tailer. I'm sort of on my own here. I'm imagining this as the e-commerce manager. Should I hire somebody to do this, or do you believe I should focus on this more than other things that might be distracting me from it? So, as you know the operational requirements of an e-com manager, where do you believe this falls in the priority system?
Like I think you can go a couple of ways on that. So first off, if you're implementing a software package, it pays to work with somebody that understands that package and can help you through the process. So, for example, like if we're implementing HubSpot or ListTrack, we actually know the intricacies of the system and how to put that together and make that work to the best of our clients' abilities. It kind of depends. Like every team is a little bit different. But so sometimes that lives in marketing, sometimes it lives in other places. But this should be a priority. The problem these days is there's a lot of priorities, right? Creating good content, having unique product descriptions, maintaining your technology. Like this is just another one of those things um, that's out there that you need to pay attention to.
Well, we left off with the just do it slide. Was there anything that you wanted to recap and summarize?
Yeah, I mean, I really just want folks to get out there and just start to do these things. Just start to think about how they're going to engage with the visitors that come to their website and get more activity to happen. And that's all right. Everybody that we know that touches these things generates more revenue across a 12-month period. And the more advanced you get with this, it's crawl, walk, run. So crawling and walking are those first four fundamental campaigns, and then getting into the other three on top of that I talked about. So how are you going to leverage your marketing data? How are you going to leverage your sales data? Where are you going to hold all of that in a way that you can communicate with those folks across different channels, whether that be email, social media, or even paid media, as I talked about? And what is your marketing system of record?
All right, that was all the questions that we had queued up for us today. Thank you, Ethan. If there's any other questions that anybody has, feel free to reach out to us. We'll be sending out a recap of this webinar later this week, and we're glad to follow up with anybody. If anybody wanted to request a conversation with a client strategist here at Groove, we're happy to set that up and make sure that everyone is going through the proper channels and proper steps to maximizing these micro campaigns for e-commerce revenue.
Yeah, I think we'd really love, if anybody would like to have a free campaign review, we'd love to sit down and talk to you and figure out, is there opportunities for you to generate more revenue with your website?
That's all we have. Thanks again, everybody, for joining, and keep an eye on our next webinar, which is coming up at the end of April.